What's going on, everybody? Things are a little sketchy with the drop frames. Seems like it's got these encoding overloads because of what I'm trying to make it process with the noise coming from the video synth. So we'll see how that works out throughout the evening. Let me know if it becomes unbearable. Over here on this end, I'm getting a live feed for the music, so it's not getting too choppy. But if it's totally unbearable, I'll try to do something about it. Welcome to the ZnZerna Music Hour. Welcome back. It's episode 2 of season 4. My name's P.T. Burnham. As usual, we're getting into it tonight. We are in the middle of Dronuary, and tonight I'm sort of working out the kinks on this Temperance drone. I've been doing Dronuary as a tribute to the major arcana, so each night or morning I'm working on a new drone related to a major arcana card. Tonight, that's Temperance. What's up, Barry? Good to see you. Drink drinks. Royal Blue in the building. Speaking of that Royal Blue, it looks like it doesn't like our transitions this evening. That's okay. This is the Royal Blue evening because blue is the color of temperance. Yeah, I'm doing a whole audio tarot deck. So yeah, it's I decided to work towards projects that are maybe a little shorter and more focused, and been having a lot of fun focusing on the tarot and the ideas and lessons contained inside of that. Barry, you've been with me for a while, so you know already about the wheel and how it rotates one a day every day. So the wheel rotates, and the creatures on the edge of the wheel experience a lot of turmoil because it's a constant up and down, up and down, up and down. And they want to escape the wheel, so they're trying to get out. But as they make their way out, they find themselves in more and more turmoil as they are further and further towards the edge of the wheel. So what the tarot tells us through the process of the wheel and the world is to move towards the center. Get yourself centered. Not to focus on the self. Understand what the self really is. Focus on this. It relates back to Buddhist ideas and principles of centering the self. Getting centered. And it's reflected in the Zerna solid base. Getting grounded. Okay. But we're not talking about the wheel tonight. We're talking about temperance. I got 4 temperance cards here. We've got the classic Rider Waite. You got to note that exploding mountain in the background. Looks like a crown. Also note the wavy nature of the water. Footbags, what's up? Been thinking about you while I'm working with this ROAT. Check out the triangle inside the square. This is significant. We've got triangles and squares tonight too. I'll show you. We've got triangles. And that's a live feed being manipulated. We've got squares. Oh, that's tight. DJ Buddy Peace. 1 minute new beat song. Yeah, it's tough to do it every day and keep on doing it. That's one of the challenges that I've been trying to do. But it's also been working out really well for the tarot and the way that I've been thinking about it. So we've also got 7, because 4 and 3 is 7. obviously. So 7 is an important number in the tarot. And when you find it, you're going to be dealing with a lot of like hard to logic stuff. It's hard to logic. You gotta logic it though. You can't just draw a 7-pointed star easily, the way that you can with an 8 or a 6 or even a 5. The 7 is very difficult. You have to use math to draw the 7. So we're talking about mastery. We're talking about the mastery that comes from balance, the balance of vibration. I've got this really wonderful tarot deck called the Tarot Animales, where all the characters are animals. And I'm a fan of this deck because it's beautiful and great for storytelling. However, I'm generally not a fan of alternative decks because they tend to lack the symbolism that's necessary. For instance, the wavy nature of the water is missing here, and that's very important because the water is not just water. We're talking about vibration, and it relates back to memory again. That water connects it with memory and vibration and the wheel. The wheel again, when you think about a point rotating on the wheel as it moves along, what you get is a sine wave. So it's all vibration, even rotation. This is just vibration. So here, especially on the old Marseille deck, I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. But hey darling, how do you pronounce Marseille? Marseille? Tarot de Marseille. This is an old school tarot deck, and what you're gonna find that's interesting about it that I really like is that it's subtle in some of the ways that the Rider-Waite is more blatant. If you remember the triangle and square, what you have here is the midriff makes the triangle, and the square is the rest of the body. So the triangle within the square is hidden inside this picture, but what's not hidden, and that is not as apparent in the Rider-Waite, is the opposite coloring of the garments and the vessels. And this has to do with something that is revealed in whole vividness by the Thoth deck, where we pour fire on the ice and we pour water on the fire. We give everything what it needs, and it needs its opposite. So as we become in sync with the vibrations, we find ourselves acting in a more temperate manner. So different decks will reveal different things. Tonight we've got the pulsar working. That's that low-pitched drone that you're hearing right now. And the ROAT, Rumble of Ancient Times, also by Soma. This thing can do all sorts of stuff, actually. This little guy can do everything from super noisy, crazy, phased noise stuff where you can hear illusions in the noise, to extremely tuned sine waves beating against each other and causing harmonics. Quite a versatile little box for being so simple looking. Huh. I see. Thank you. Thank you, Barry. Alright, so, as I was saying, Soma is handling the sound-making duties right now. Thank you, Barry, for that troubleshooting. We got the Rumble of Ancient Times is handling 4 voices. Very versatile little box. I'll probably talk a little bit about it later. It's handling a couple of voices right now, but they're low in the mix. There's going to be some low-frequency oscillators coming from the Make Noise No Coast. I'm not actually using the sound from it right now. I'm just using the low-frequency oscillators to modulate slowly some things on the pulsar. The pulsar can drone, but when it comes to slow, long-term modulation, that is not its strong suit. Although, if you know of a way that it can do that, I'd love to know. But I'm also going to be making some noise with it, some windy stuff. You're already hearing it a little bit, but I'm going to be turning that up. We're going to go on a little sound journey, a little drone journey. Headphones are definitely recommended, but in lieu of that, just lean on back, and we're going to go deep into this drone for a little while. I know I did. The Dark Age has already begun, and its onset has been brought about primarily by the role that the so-called visual psychic generators, or Type 2 objects, have come to play in the life of man. And speaking of the fact that dualism, engendered by the arbitrary division of the world into subject and object, the Buddha was concerned with subject-object division of the first type. The major distinguishing feature of the Dark Age lies in the decisive influence exerted on the life of man by the subject-object division of the second type, which in the time of Buddha did not exist. In order to explain what is meant by object of the first and second types, let us take a simple example, a television set. This is simply a box with a glass wall, which we are free to watch or not watch. When an individual's gaze falls upon a dark screen, the movement of his or her eyes is controlled exclusively by the internal nerve pulses or the psychological process taking place in his or her consciousness. For instance, an individual might notice that the screen is fly-spotted, or he or she may decide that it would be a good idea to buy a television twice as big, or think that it would be a good idea to stand it in a different corner. Until a television is switched on, it is in no way different from the objects with which people had to deal with in Buddha's time, be it a stone, the dew on a blade of grass, or an arrow with a divided head. In short, everything that the Buddha used to illustrate his talks. But when a television is turned on, it is transformed from an object of the first type into an object of the second type. It becomes a phenomenon of an entire different order. And although the person looking at the screen does not notice this customary transformation, it is truly immense. For the viewer, the television disappears as a material object that possesses weight, size, and other physical properties. Instead of this, the viewer has the sensation of being present in a different space, a sensation familiar to all who are assembled there. The question is, who is actually present? Can we say that it is the viewer himself? Let us repeat the question, since it is extremely important. Is it possible to say that the television is being watched by the individual who is watching it? We assert that it is not, for the following reasons. When the individual viewed the television while it was switched off, the movement of his or her eyes and the flow of his or her attention were controlled by their own voluntary impulses, chaotic though they may have been. The dark screen with no image of any kind did not exert any influence over them, or if it did, it was only as a background. When it is switched on, a television almost never transmits a static view from a single motionless camera, and therefore the image on it is not a background. Quite the contrary, this image changes at an extremely rapid rate. Every few seconds there is either a change of camera angle, or a fade into close-up of some object, or a switch to a different camera. The image is constantly being modified by the cameraman and the producer who stands behind it. This changing of the image is known as techno-modification. We ask you to pay particularly close attention at this point, since our next thesis is rather difficult to grasp, although in essence it is extremely simple. In addition, the The feeling may arise that we are dealing with something that is insignificant, but we make the bold assertion that we are in fact dealing with the most real psychological phenomenon of the end of the second millennium. The changes in the visual image produced by various technomodifications can be correlated with a virtual psychological process in which the observer is forced to switch his attention from one event to another and select the most interesting content from what is taking place. That is, to manage his own attention as the makers of the program manage it. The psychological process creates its own virtual subject, which for the duration of the television program exists in place of the individual, fitting into his or her consciousness like a hand into a rubber glove. This is similar to the condition of possession by a spirit. The difference lies in the fact that in this case, the spirit does not exist. All that does exist are the symptoms of possession. This is a virtual spirit, but from the moment the viewer entrusts the program makers with redirecting his or her attention at will from object to object, he or she effectively becomes this spirit, and the spirit, which does not actually exist, possesses this viewer and millions of others. Now, to me, this is a very interesting idea to think about. And there's a lot contained in there. And the book goes further in terms of the viewer not existing, the television spirit not existing, and you're just a sort of series of processes. And the point of these processes of extreme information intake, which I won't get into right now. What I really find interesting and meaty and small in here is where it says, this is definitely not background, which made me think about it. The way that the screen changes, super bright, it changes rapidly. So if you think about the aspects of background versus the aspects of foreground, background doesn't change much. If it does, it usually changes slowly. You know, if you're in a moving vehicle, the way that the trees far away will be moving slowly across, whereas the trees and telephone poles that are there will be zipping across. So the difference between background and foreground is sort of that. Brightness, motion, and change, right? So what the screen does is sort of asserts itself as super foreground, where everything is changing even more rapidly, it's even brighter, generating its own light, it's super foreground. And that's how it asserts itself, the most important. Yes, we've been doing Dronuary, and it's available publicly on Patreon. If you're part of Patreon at all, you can see the feed. It's on ZnZerna. Barry, my royal blue, thank you for being part of this basically since day one. If you're not part of it yet, go check it out. There's a lot of free content on my Patreon, and the stuff that you can pay for is usually physical objects that will be coming to you in the mail. I figured it'd be a good time to mention that. Anyways, if you want to support the channel and all the stuff that I'm doing here, building instruments, I'm going to be posting up something soon about the part of the process of building these electromagnetic instruments, the Esperfields. I don't know if we got a good view of those tonight. Here we go. This is the instrument here. Hell yeah. Thanks for Bex. I'm getting a lot more into phasing these days. Those comey textures. I love how you can control the attack and decay. On the Rumble of Ancient Time. Just enough to make it so that it's not too abrupt. Makes it good for droning. You can also get really wild with the tensor. Since I'm just kind of messing around here, I'll show you what's up. Phasing didgeridoo type deals. You can also bring in an amount of randomness. Generally, the randomness will only affect the knobs that you've got turned away from their 0 point. When I turn the tuning knob, I get some nice glitchiness. The tensor is nice because it allows you to control speed and time independently of another pitch setting, which you can sweep around, that works by thirds, fifths, and other harmonically related content. So even when you randomize that, you're gonna get some stuff that sounds good. Not always. You got to be careful, especially when you're poking around with the Esperfield, feeding it solid tones. So, in the dust room where the Zernas were born, which is the buffing room at Paul Reed Smith Guitars, there are 13 wheels, actually a total of 26. 2 wheels per motor. There's 13 motors. And they're humming away. And I decided one day to take a tuner into the room and figure out what note they were making. And they were making a B flat, which is interesting and funny because all those wheels spinning were making a B flat, which happens to be the key note of the wheel in the tarot, is B flat. And that's what we're trying to do in the buffing room to the finish, is get it to B flat, which is the universe. If you know how to look, the universe is full of these kinds of jokes. Nice comb. Alright, so I've resolved for this season of ZnZerna to let things go as long as I feel like they want to go. It's not going to be specifically an hour. It'll probably never be shorter than like 30 minutes. But like right about now, I feel like we should be starting to wind down. Yeah. These nice combs going. I just turned up the volume on the inputs of the Esperfield, so it's outputting a whole lot of power, allowing you to really take in a lot of chords, but it also really turns up the noise on it. When it's combined with that chaos, it sounds only okay. Thank you for joining me this evening. We messed about with this Temperance drone. This is G sharp, by the way. That's the key that we're in. I gotta thank my dust cats. Huge thanks to my digicats. Enjoy these drones. It's Drone-uary. Let's get it. Thank you to all my Zerna cats. Erica Pontiac, Kenny Creech, Gerard Stoltz, Melissa Schick, Ben Dasher and Rin Cat. That's the dust room. Those are the wheels right there. I don't know why it's going so slow. I think these are these computing errors that I'm running into. I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting. To all my dusty cats. Mikey, Sam Seeger, Mama Cat, I love you. Eric Akers, Austin, Avalanche, Snell, Wayne Anderson, Austin Cat, Visitor 10, Anna Cat, Scarlett Herrera, Jared Dudley. Oh, what's up, Pete? Thank you very much. Couldn't do it without you. So for everybody getting dusty, that's what's up. I'm building more Esperfields. This year's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna do tapes. I got the whole breakdown up on the Patreon. It's also on the YouTube, etc. Basically, I'm breaking away from the traditional social media platforms. It causes a lot of stress for me and it doesn't do much for me. I'd rather concentrate on building meaningful instruments, making meaningful music. It's Seems to have frozen before we really got my... Ah, there he is. Dog fuck. I love you. As usual, I'll probably see you this week. Pleasure to know you. And now, slowly but surely, moving towards our royal blue. Dairy Cat, thank you for being a tech solution, all the things, so much support, and yeah, you make it easier for me to do what I'm doing, by far. Super slow-mo outro. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Hasana Saba. Yes. Alright. So we clocked in around 50 minutes tonight. Friends, dust cats. It's been a pleasure hanging out, doing these drones. Next week I think we're going to have something a little different for you. I'm still going to be doing Dronuary throughout most, if not all, of January. We're going to at least finish off the Major Arcana. Tomorrow I'll be publishing Temperance. Patreon gets it first. Yeah. Until I see you next week, keep listening. This is P.T. Burnham signing off. Have a good night, sir.